Again, I'm Carrie Allen. I'm a pharmacist who specializes in geriatrics and pharmacotherapy. And basically what that means is I like to talk to older people about their health conditions and their medications and mix it up and get in there and give some advice about what they should do. So, towards that end, let me show you a really scary slide. This slide is scary for a reason. It's an example case study of an amalgamation of males that I've seen. Could be a female, could be anything, very common. And you can see that there's, 17 things on this medication list, and it's difficult to read, and some of the medications you probably don't recognize. We're going to go through them a little bit, and this is probably going to be the only kind of, she's drawing out through this part of the presentation, but I really want to emphasize to you that this is a very common situation. And not only that, I had to take like 5 or 6 meds off of this. So really more medications than this is even more common. So let's get right into it. This person takes Tylenol PM. You're all familiar with that. Helps you sleep, but also has some pain medication. And they chose to take it on their own. It's an over-the-counter medication. They're on something called amitriptyline. Don't worry if you don't recognize these names. It is an old antidepressant, and it has some very serious side effects in the elderly, but people take it for pain, insomnia, depression, those kind of things. They're also on another antidepressant called Celexa at 40 milligrams, and a psychiatrist prescribed that. They're on Abilify, which the psychiatrist also prescribed. I don't know if you've heard about Abilify on the television, but they often prescribe it or advertise it to help with depression. And one of the things they don't tell you is that it's actually an antipsychotic. Antipsychotics in the elderly can lead to death. There's an increased risk of mortality if you are elderly and you take these kind of medications. So while they may be helpful, they could be very harmful, and there's some other side effects as well. Multivitamins, tamsulosin, that's to help someone who's a guy go to the bathroom if their prostate's been enlarged. Cosoft, that's for the eyes. The eye doctor gave that one. The urologist gave the medication to help them urinate. Tylenol, ibuprofen. The person chose the Tylenol, but their primary care physician said take some ibuprofen for your knee pain. Hydrochlorothiazide, big long word for what we call a diuretic or a water pill by the cardiologist. The cardiologist also said take some Coreg for your high blood pressure. Take some lisinopril for your high blood pressure. Take a clonidine patch. Well, you know what? There's a question mark there. Did the cardiologist prescribe that? It's for blood pressure. We don't know. Simvastatin, that's for cholesterol. I've got a little cholesterol panel there. We won't go through that, but the cardiologist prescribed it, and this person's cholesterol is pretty low. This person actually decided on their own to take something called red yeast rice. And what that is a supplement over the counter that really acts as a cholesterol medication, and it's pretty much a duplication of that simvastatin that I just talked about. And finally, some sleepy tea. Can't forget your herbals, folks. Sleepy tea, this herbal tea, what it does is it helps you sleep, but through an herb that may interact with other medications. So you can see this person takes 14 to 16 doses in a day, and they have at least 4 different prescribers. That is actually a little less than some people that I'm going to get to this case study real quick. I'm not going to go through everything in great detail, but if you can see on the slide, I want you to notice that I've crossed out Tylenol PM. I've crossed out amitriptyline. I put an arrow that I'd like to reduce that Celexa, because you know what? If you are over 60 years old, not 65, not 62, 60 years old, Celexa at 40 milligrams is too high for most people. Abilify, remember I told you could probably die from that if you're elderly, and it can cause a bunch of other problems. Lightning bolt, cross out. I would recommend you're off that medication. Multivitamin, sure, definitely take it, but is it really for anemia? Question mark. Tamsulosin for that guy who can't go to the bathroom, that dose is weird. Now, it was prescribed by a urologist, but me as a pharmacist, I'm looking at that thinking the dose needs to be increased for it to work well. Maybe there was a transcription error. Maybe somebody wrote something down wrong. Or maybe he had a plan, and we don't know. We got to ask. I'm going to leave the eye medication on. That's important. The Tylenol, okay, that might be okay. But you know what? Even though the prescriber said take some ibuprofen for your knee pain, this person has such intense blood pressure problems, according to the med list at least, that Ibuprofen could be a problem. Did you know that ibuprofen and drugs like that can actually interfere with your blood pressure medications and increase your blood pressure? So you need to really be vigilant about that. Clonidine is one of those drugs that's not great in old people, so I want to get rid of that. I want to decrease the dose probably of hydrochlorothiazide and Coreg based on the blood pressures I'm seeing. That simvastatin 80, elderly people don't do well on that dose, usually. So I want to reduce that or get rid of it altogether. Get rid of that red yeast rice. We don't need that. It interacts with simvastatin. Get rid of that sleepy tea. It's going to interact with all sorts of things. So these are recommendations I would make as a pharmacist if you came to me and we were looking at things, and I would write them down for you and you could take them to your doctor. I would not change everything all at once. Never change everything all at once. Be scientific about it.